Hey there, welcome to the Summit Host Hangout podcast where you'll learn how to plan, strategize, and launch your profitable online summit, no influencer status necessary. I'm your host, Krista from Summit in a Box, and we are currently in a series about your summit speakers. Today in episode 18, I am so excited to bring in Nichole Beiner to talk about creating summits that are more diverse and inclusive, specifically with speaker lineups. So we're going to cover the biggest diversity related issues that come up with summits, why it really does matter, and steps you can take as a summit host to make sure you are hosting a diverse and inclusive event. To give you some background information on Nichole, she is an experienced attorney, a social justice advocate, a blogger, educator, community builder, and a woman who believes in living wholeheartedly. Her blog and community, Melanin and Moxie, is dedicated to helping women of color connect with, uplift, and empower one another to be their full selves. She also offers leadership strategy and diversity and equity consulting to schools and businesses interested in creating inclusive and engaged organizational cultures. She believes that equity and compassion make us all stronger, which I think is something we can all agree with and get behind. So without further ado, let's dive in and talk with Nichole. Hey everybody! So an issue I've been noticing more and more with online summits lately is the fact that you can look at a speaker lineup or a lot of speaker lineups and everyone tends to look the same. In my first summit, I was very, very guilty of this. I had 20 speakers. There were 3 that weren't white. And in my feedback survey, someone brought it up and said she would have loved to see a more diverse lineup. And to be honest with you guys, at first I was offended by it. In my mind, I had tried, I reached out to some people I knew. I tried. That was effort, right? But since then, I have realized what a problem that was, and I am really determined to change the way speaker lineups look at online summits. So today, I'm so excited to bring on Nichole to talk about how we can work together to make online summits more diverse and inclusive. And I just want to welcome you, Nichole. I'm so excited to have this conversation today.
Thanks. I am so excited to be speaking with you today. I am excited that these conversations are starting to happen on bigger scales. What you said is just so important. In fact, one of the first things I look at when I see a summit is I just scroll through and see who's in it. And is there anyone who looks like me? And it's an interesting thing because very often it's not. The answer is no. And one of the things that I love is for people to start asking, well, why is this happening? What can we do about it? So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this topic. I am an attorney by trade, and I have within the past 2 years transitioned into running my own blog for women of color and running my own consulting services where I help organizations and businesses facilitate conversations that are difficult to have and help create empathetic leadership environments. So I've been doing a lot of this diversity work, probably for about 14 years now. And so it's been within the last 2 years that I've really just dove in and said, I really want to help other people make their organizations better.
Well, I just have to say for myself, and I'm sure a lot of people watching, listening, reading, that I'm thankful for people that like you who are stepping up and talking about it, because without you guys, people like myself who are messing things up a little bit, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know if people weren't telling us. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's hard work. And I'll tell you that it's often really thankless work. So thank you. That means I don't want to think that goes unnoticed. I'm going to write that down and put it in my little bad day file because I really, really do appreciate that.
Oh my gosh. So I want to dive into this online summit topic. Have you participated in online summits before? And if so, in what capacity? Attendee, speaker, host, helping people? What has that looked like for you?
Sure. So in online summits, I've mostly been attendees. I've applied to a couple that I didn't end up getting selected for, but I have attended a few. And there are some people doing some really awesome things. It's my hope that one day I will put together my own online summit. But yeah, there are some really awesome things going on. And I feel like this forum, especially for someone like me who has a disability, is awesome because I can't always travel to places. And so being able to sit at home and just learn and connect with people is fantastic.
So you've been an attendee at summits. I want to dive into some of what the bigger diversity issues are that come up when it comes to summits. So what are the biggest ones you've seen from the summits you've either watched from a distance or been a part of?
Sure. So one of the big issues goes back to speaker lineup. And I think that is tied to people start with their circles. And they go with people they know. And too often, I think that when people are putting together a lineup, even if they ask or put something out or say, I'm doing this thing, who do you know? The people they're asking are too much like them to be able to give them a really well-rounded array of speakers. And so one of the things I've seen is that you will get really great names and really great speakers, but you'll lack the diversity a lot of times. And there are a ton of people doing really awesome work. And I think that what we need to do is encourage people to grow their circles and reach outside of their circles and provide resources to, okay, well, here's a place that you can go to, or here's a forum where you can ask, where you'll find more women of color, women with disabilities, women with whatever you're looking for, if you're looking for men, and just kind of a space where not all the same type of people tend to gravitate. And so I think that's one of the bigger challenges, particularly when you start talking about which Facebook groups are really popular. And so you have a lot of, for instance, I love Jenna Kutcher. I think she's great. I do think there are some things like for instance, she's trying to work on her own diversity. And she recently did a podcast kind of sort of addressing the issue. And one of the problems is in spaces like her online forum, you'll get people who just defend, right? And just say she's doing her best and, you should just listen to this and accept it. And then you'll get people who say, well, even if she's doing her best, like there needs to be, representation and better representation. And so the conversation ends there. So part of what I spend a lot of time doing is helping people get past that and helping kind of bridge that gap. Because I think we live in a very polarized world right now. And once you kind of set your thing, well, yes, I did my best, or no, you're not trying hard enough, people just go off in their own ways. And I think so much gets missed, right? There's just so much good we could do if we pushed a little bit further and we're willing to be a little bit more introspective. So I think that's kind of where I see one of the really big downfalls of online summit.
Yeah, that's such a good point too. In what you were talking about with people, they might try to reach out and ask who people know, but exactly like you said, we tend to know more people who are like us, and then you get nowhere. And that's exactly what my experience has been. So, it's partially good to hear like that. It's kind of like a thing, but I'm excited to hear how we can kind of work to change that. But before we do that, I would love for you to give us more of a perspective, your perspective of how these issues are harmful. Why is it a big deal that summit lineups have people that all look the same?
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things or takeaways, if you only took away one thing, is it perpetuates the problem. And it says only this type of person is capable of doing Y thing. And so, for instance, if they're only single moms leading forums, right? Then you start thinking, well, if I'm not a single mom, this isn't for me, or maybe I'm taking away resources from the people who should be doing this, right? And I think, one of the things I've been working on is an abundance mindset, which as a woman of color, it's not easy. You grow up in a world of scarcity, a world of, you have to try 2 times as hard or 3 times as hard. And so this idea that there's space for everyone it's very different from what you grew up with. And then when you see that kind of replicated on a lineup, you say, well, if there was space for anyone and everyone, why aren't there people who look like me here? And why are the people whose voices are being listened to and projected all people who look a certain way, or who have a certain, class upbringing, or and it really narrows the box of what we think about, what we push forward, the stories that actually get lifted up and projected, and kind of what we care about as a community. It really sets the narrative. And I believe that the more stories we have and the more perspectives we have, the richer our narrative is, the richer our understanding of one another, of what the space that we're trying to cultivate is. And so even within, circles of women of color, I really try to get women with diverse experiences or things that you may not have thought about, because I do think it matters, not only to the people who want to see themselves there, but it matters to the things that the media pays attention to. It matters to the things that, your following pays attention to. And so I think those are small ways we can make little changes to help stop the polarization that's happening in our society, and to also help people understand people you may never meet. The internet is incredible. And I always feel so old when I say this, but it really is incredible. And we have the capacity to be in two different places and have a conversation and see each other and just really talk and get to know one another. And I think we could use that more. Summits can be the place where we do that, where you make friendships across the world, across the country. And I don't think we're utilizing it to its full potential. So I think that's part of why it's really important to do it, and why it would be really harmful to just kind of make clicks and just bigger clicks.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up that it's a bigger issue apart from maybe everyone being at one color on a summit lineup. And I want to just kind of put this in perspective for people as well. Like, there's one really popular conference in the online space that I've always wanted to go to, but I haven't actually looked at it in a couple of years because at the time I wasn't a mom and it had the word mom in the title. And I'm not going to say what it was because it's run by an amazing woman, but I looked at that and so many people I know and loved were going, but I was like, I'm not a mom. Like, I don't know if I'm welcome. Are they going to kick me out? Like, will I learn something here? And like on the sales page, there was like a FAQ, like, do I have to be a mom? And the answer was no. But I was like, I don't feel comfortable. Right. And I mean, that's how people feel when they look at your speaker lineup and they can't see themselves in it. Like I can just as I'm talking about that, I can just kind of feel the anxiety. And I hate that I've put people in that position in the past just from not realizing what an issue this was. So I'm so thankful that you brought that point up. It's diversity across all kinds of different areas.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No one wants to be the unwelcomed guest, right? And you can say, oh no, you're invited. But your actions generally show am I really invited? So one thing, like really easy, quick tip, when you're doing stock photos to promote something, I always look, what do those stock photos look like? And is it just like one type of woman? Are there people of diverse body sizes? Am I going to feel awkward if I don't fit a certain runway model kind of thing? Right. Especially if it's a summit that's offering, to do photos for your brand, right? And I think these are things, especially as women, that I think about. I imagine men might think about some of these things too. But, everyone wants to just feel like I'm going into this space and it's made for me, or they get me and they get what my problems are. And if you have to put aside a big chunk of who you are to do that, then you likely won't go. Or if you go, you're not going to get as much out of it as a person who doesn't have to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just powerful and it makes so much sense. And I guess I would love to know what steps you recommend summit hosts take to have a more diverse event overall. So originally I was going to ask a more inclusive speaker lineup, but now you just brought up the stock photos as well. That's another place where we can be more inclusive and diverse. So do you have specific steps you recommend hosts take to start making progress in this?
Sure. So one easy thing is, like I said, with the stock photos, I always search out stock photos that have diverse women in it, since my audience is mainly women, or if I'm doing a corporate job with organizations, then I will even make sure that there's different ages represented, that there are different people. Maybe some people are standing, maybe some people are sitting. For me, because having a disability is part of my identity now, I often am very in tune to that. Like, how accessible are things? I know one of the people in a coaching program I did is working on helping people get captions for their videos, because so that deaf people or people who are having difficulty hearing can access the same material. So I think one of the things that's really powerful to me is to just kind of think about the ways that I'm privileged, right? And to think about, and it's hard. I know at first people's first instinct when they hear that is to talk about all the difficulties they've overcome. But I think when I sit down and even if you just write, what are all the things I'm grateful for, right? And then look at what would life be like without, and take away, and kind of imagine that, yes, there is someone there without that thing or without a combination of that thing. How do I access those people? What are those people needing? And I think that's been some way to help me kind of check myself when I'm, putting some media out there, or when I'm putting together a workshop that I'm doing, and just to remind myself, okay, are people who are hard of hearing, this happens in almost every panel that I go to, or anytime I'm at a speaking event. There's always a Q&A time where there are not enough mics to pass around, and where someone will say, oh, I'll just project, right? And I used to never think anything about this. I used to just be like, okay, that's fine. I can hear this person. And it wasn't until I actually developed a disability and started speaking to other people with other types of disabilities that I was like, wow, this is a really ableist point of view. You're projecting, and sure, maybe someone with a quote unquote normal hearing can hear you, but what does it really take for us to wait the extra minute for the mic to come back to you, so that someone who's having trouble hearing can have the same experience as other people? So I think things like that, for online summits, looking at who is your lineup, and if you can't find people who are diverse, who can you just ask? Who is doing the things, or who has a different group, a totally different audience and following, that would be willing to either collaborate with you or to refer you to someone. This is someone in my group doing what you're looking for. And I'll say Raina Pomeroy is amazing at doing that. She is fantastic at saying here's someone you should reach out to, and then just connecting you from there. And seeking out those people who aren't just going to refer you to, this is the big name in this industry, but who are going to be thoughtful about what you're trying to accomplish. And so saying, I want to create an inclusive space. Do you have anyone who fits this kind of category, or this is what I'm missing from my space? Or even just saying, here's my lineup so far. Do you see anything missing? Where's my blind spot? Because I think that's often the hardest, is to identify our own blind spots.
And it's so much better to get it pointed out before it's too late to have it pointed out.
Yeah, exactly. I hate getting feedback, and then I love getting it, but it always hurts me a little bit to be man, I missed this big thing. And it makes sense. We're really busy. Everyone's busy. We live in a society where media comes at us so quickly. I worked in journalism for a little bit, and just the pace at which you have to create things is insane. And so I get how busy we are, but finding the people you can go to and say, all right, let me just take a minute and can you look at this for me? And what am I missing? I think can hopefully help the feedback that comes in later. And that's been really invaluable to me.
Oh, for sure. And you pointed out Raina, and she's someone that's been so helpful for me too, because she is one of the people I went to for my last summit. I was like, I need more diversity in my lineup. Like, who do you know that I can reach out to? Because she's so well connected and she keeps this kind of thing at the top of her mind. Just having people like that are so powerful. And, there's other people I've reached out to too, or, asking in a group who people know that match what you're looking for. And, for me, it has always felt like scary and awkward. I'm like, is this like an okay thing for me to ask? But it is. Like, it's worth it to feel a little uncomfortable and be able to amplify other voices.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that we have to get through, right? And it seems like we should be able to do it because as entrepreneurs, like everything you do is scary. And there are lots of things that you do that are uncomfortable. But there's this real fear about getting it wrong around diversity issues in particular. And I think that's something we have to learn, that you're going to get it wrong. Right? And just accept you're going to get it wrong. And if you can do it with grace and be apologetic when you do and be thoughtful about, right? Like maybe I won't ask the person who is like clearly having a bad day to explain these, issues of race or gender or whatever the case may be to me, right? But maybe I will be inquisitive or show that I'm open to things, or even just open to learning and listening. And from listening to many people's stories, you can actually start saying, oh, I see this, or I see a trend here, and I know I can be part of helping that. And I think that's really, really important. And it extends to everything, not just the work we do, but the books we read. And that's, for me, part of why I started doing this work is because I was really frustrated that kind of everyone that was recommended to me, it was like a white male or a white woman, every book. And everyone who was talking about like leading your own business or starting your own business or doing coaching or whatever it may be, it was always a successful white man or white woman. They always looked a certain way. They always, and some of them are fantastic. And I love what they have to offer. But I was always really disappointed that there was no one who looked like me doing it. And it made me wonder, is that kind of a glass ceiling? Or is there space for this and it's just not happening?
That is like, it's heartbreaking to even think of that, because that shouldn't be a question anymore, right? And I can so see it now, thinking of it that way as well. One thing I was going to ask is, do you know of any like directory? I know of like speaker directories and event directories. Do you know any that are geared towards amplifying, highlighting people of color specifically?
Yeah, so there are a few. I'm in a few Facebook groups that put together speaker directories specifically for people of color. Some of them are people of color generally. Some of them are women of color, men of color. And I can actually try and link. I'm not sure if they make you pay into the directory or not, so I can look into that. But I know that there are Facebook groups out there, and I'm happy to kind of send those along if that's helpful.
Yeah, I would love to have links to that kind of stuff here for people to look into more as resources to make this easier. Yeah. Because right now I feel like it is something that should not be difficult, is a little difficult. And, resources like that just help so immensely. But I'd kind of like to wrap this up by asking, what is one takeaway that you would like summit hosts to walk away from this with?
Sure. I think if there's one takeaway, it's that it's scary, but it's not actually hard. So I know
there's a difference.
Yeah, I think it could feel really hard, but that feeling of it being difficult is just being uncomfortable. And so if we can face that and acknowledge like, okay, I'm scared or I'm nervous and just call it whatever it is, then we can kind of move forward and say, what resources do I have? What circles do I run in, right? Like maybe for all you know, I don't know, maybe the gym down the street has someone you can ask, right? Like we run into people in all sorts of places, and sometimes it just takes putting yourself out there and saying, I'm doing this thing. Do you happen to know anybody? Maybe you'll get a lot of no's, but often I've gotten lots of yeses or, oh, you should talk to blank. And so that would be the thing that I would really want people to walk away with, because it's something we can all do better at. And once we understand that, okay, I can do this. This isn't like impossible. This isn't a really high, difficult bar to reach. I think then we all start making progress. And so that's the thing I try and remind myself. I'm not always going to nail it. I'm not always going to be perfect. But if I can put myself out there and if I can get feedback, I will make progress. And each one of us that makes progress makes a difference.
I love that so much. And I'm so glad you helped with that mindset shift. Even for me right here, it's not hard. You're right. It's not hard. Uncomfortable and difficult are very different things.
Yeah.
So seriously, thank you so much for being on here and having this conversation and helping people start to see where they can start, making a difference and leveling the playing field, because it shouldn't be an issue anymore, at least in my opinion. So I guess I would just love to ask you last, where can everyone go online to learn more about you, keep up with everything you're doing online?
Sure. So I have my website is NicholeGabrielle.com. If you visit it today, it's under construction, but you can sign up for my newsletter. And if you are a woman of color or an ally, you can visit melaninandmoxie.com. That's my blog. And I am looking for blog contributors and people to share their voices there. Also really active on social media. That's kind of my jam. So Facebook and Instagram, if you look up Melanin and Moxie, you'll find me.
I hope you loved that chat with Nichole. This conversation really helped me understand a new perspective and how I can be a part of the change that needs to happen in diversifying the world around me, but specifically summits. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If this is something you haven't thought about before, I'm so grateful that you took the time to listen to this episode, and I know that that means you're willing to put in the work to create a more diverse and inclusive event. So thank you so much for tuning in. For show notes and resources mentioned in this episode, as well as links to learn more about Nichole, head to summitHostHangout.com/018. In the next episode, we'll be chatting about choosing speakers that will get you results and who will get results from participating in your summit. So be sure to tune in for that. Now go out and take action to plan, strategize,